On this channel, we like to talk about the best tools to use as a real estate agent. Because when you're in business for yourself as a real estate agent, you want to make sure that every dollar you spend is on the most efficient and the best of the best tools. So today in this video, I'm going to take two really good and very known dialers, Mojo Dialer and Prospect Boss. I'm going to pit them head to head in the ultimate competition to see if which one comes out on top and which one's better and which ones actually deserve it of your hard-earned dollars. If you don't already know, my name is Mike Smuts. On this channel, me and my co-host William Rojas love giving information and helping other real estate agents sell more real estate. We're both real estate agents ourselves, and it's our primary business, and we're both actively in the business today. So if any of this information is helpful to you, please leave a like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment saying thank you so much, Mike, because we do this for free. And that's all really, just knowing that you guys are out there is really the only things we need. So please leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment so we know that you guys are actually liking these videos. Okay, so if you're kind of new in the industry and maybe you've never used a dialer before, let's kind of break down what a dialer is and what's the benefit of using. So what a dialer really does is it lets you make more phone calls than if you were to pick up the phone. Yes, you can pick up the phone, hand dial, boop, 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 ring, 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 no answer. You can do that. And, you know, if you're broke and you don't have anything, pick that up, start calling your contacts, let people know that you're in business. But that's not what we're talking about. When you start trying to get more business, whether you're looking to call expireds for sell by owners, you're looking to circle dial, what have you, you're probably going to be looking at a dialer. Because what that does is it's automatically going to grab each phone number and dial it out for you. And even in some cases, both of these have 3-line dialers. So what that means is it's going to dial 3 numbers at the same time, which means you're having more conversations quicker and with less work and less headache, because who doesn't like that? So also, the big thing that it's going to do is, especially if you're just using your cell phone, your number is going to get marked as spam really quick. So think about when you're getting calls from telemarketing salespeople, whether they're, I don't know, trying to call you about your car's extended warranty, or, I don't know, maybe they want you to buy insurance. That's a huge thing in real estate. I don't know why I get so many texts and calls about buying insurance in real estate, but I digress. Think about it. When those pop up, it probably says spam likely, right? And that happens to everybody. But when it says spam likely, you're probably not likely to pick up the phone. So with the new TCPA acts, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, those numbers have been getting marked as spam more likely, more often, and you want to make sure you're not one of them. So a dialer should be able to help you with that, as well as make more phone calls. So now that we've set up what a dialer should do, why is one of these? Because obviously when I'm pitting them head to head, I'm going to be trying to be biased. Why do I think one of these is better off? So let's talk about calling speed. Now, on its website, Mojo claims to let you make up to 300 calls per hour right on the start, which is pretty good. Prospect Boss, it doesn't have any claims, but through personal opinion, the dialer does dial a little bit faster. They both use up to 3 lines, and they both use void IP, VoIP dialers, which makes, like, there's really next to no lag. You get, as soon as somebody answers the phone, you're really there. So I really felt no difference on those. Where I did feel a difference was kind of the speed. I felt like Prospect Boss, while it might be a little small, it's not quite as much. I was getting a higher contact rate with Prospect Boss. And part of that is going to be with the next thing when we're talking about spam, but I was getting more calls based off of that. So I think Prospect Boss wins just by a little bit. So let's give 1-0 to Prospect Boss. Mojo barely lost that, though. You know, if you're calling with Mojo and you're making your calls on a regular basis, Mojo's going to be okay. Now, before we get into pricing and other features like that, let's talk about the phone spam feature. What are they doing to prevent you from getting marked as spam? So Mojo, being one of the first to ever do this, has what they call the whitelist feature. So what they're doing is they're whitelisting your numbers in the database so that your number doesn't come up as spam. Now, the issue with this is while it did work when it first came out, I still found I was getting marked as spam, likely. The second thing in how these dialers fundamentally differ from each other is Mojo. Imagine you have one number. So let's call this, let's call it number 1. And you're calling out the 3 people at the same time. That same number is dialing 3 different numbers at the same time. Don't you think the call service providers are going to see that and think this guy's making 3 calls at the exact same time with the same number? It's probably a spammer. It makes you more likely to mark as spam. With Prospect Boss, it has a pool of numbers. So you buy a bunch of numbers, let's say 20, 25 numbers. You buy them in groups of 5. And those numbers get rotated. So as you call, it changes what number you're calling from, protecting your numbers so they don't get marked as spam, as well as, having some registry stuff. I find my numbers rarely ever get marked as spam in Prospect Boss, and if they do, Prospect Boss will switch them out with new numbers. So the clear winner here is Prospect Boss, just because of how it's automatically rotating numbers, and it's automatically doing that. With Mojo, I have to manually track that, manually switch what numbers I'm doing, and etc. etc. Okay, so with those in mind, let's talk about probably one of the big things. It's going to come down to pricing, because Prospect Boss might be amazing when at not getting you marked as spam, but if it's 7 times as more expensive, it's not worth it. And a dialer I love using is called Batch Dialer, and I go back and forth between them and Prospect Boss, but the reason they are as good when they have some cool features there is it just gets more expensive. So links to that is also in the description. Maybe at some point we can do bring that in the comparison, but right now we're 2-0 for Prospect Boss to Mojo. And let's talk about pricing. Both of them have different tiers. Prospect Boss, if you package stuff together, they have packages. It gets cheaper when you group stuff together. Mojo, it kind of makes it sound like it does, but it's almost like an a la carte service. So if you look at the website, it kind of breaks down that the dialer is this much and then lead sources is this much, blah, blah, blah. And then you obviously have to pay for phone numbers on each. But let's strip away leads, and I'll show you where I get my leads in a second. Just look at the dialer itself, just to keep this a fair apples to apples comparison, because we're talking about dialers here. We're not talking about leads. Who knows where you're going to get your leads from? And I don't want that to skew anything. There are different types of dialers. There's a single line dialer and a triple line dialer. And really what that means is how many numbers is it going to call at the same time. To me, I don't think getting a single line dialer really ever makes sense. So I would always spring for the triple line dialer. But I do want to mention the single line dialer for Mojo is $99, whereas the triple line dialer is $149 a month. And that is just for the dialer itself, no phone numbers, and no leads, just to keep the comparison fair. So $149 a month for Mojo. Now, if we come to Prospect Boss, you have the option between 1 line, 2 line, and 3 line. And both on Mojo and Prospect Boss, if you get the 3 line, you can change it to 1, you can change it to 2. It doesn't mean you're stuck with that, but the 1 line dialer is $85 a month, a little bit cheaper than Mojo's dialer. The 2 line dialer is $99 a month. So for the same price as Mojo's 1 dialer, you're getting 2. And then the 3 line dialer, which at Mojo is $149, the 3 line dialer at Prospect Boss is $115. That's the one I'd recommend. So for $115 a month, you can get started with Prospect Boss. Now, obviously, those aren't going to be phone numbers. So what does it cost in Mojo to get your phone numbers to call out with, and what does it cost in Prospect Boss to get those? So Mojo charges you $10 a month per phone number. And the rule of thumb, if you don't know, is for every 75 dials you make a day, you should have 1 phone number. So For $10 a month, you can make 75 outbound dials. Now, I recommend having 15 or 20. So with $10 a day, that's another 150, 200 bucks. And there are cheaper ways that you can get those, because in both systems you can import numbers in, but we're just giving what the dialer has. It gets more expensive. The numbers are expensive. In Prospect Boss, it comes in groups of 5. So it is $25 a month for 5 phone numbers. Whereas in Mojo, that would get you 2. So you're getting a little bit more than double the phone numbers for the same price. So for 5 phone numbers for 25 bucks, it's not a bad deal. You know, that lets you make 475 dials, give or take. I'm bad at quick math, and I don't want to double check that. But they let you get 5 phone numbers for 25 bucks a month in bundles, bringing the cost up to about what a little bit under actually what Mojo Dialer is based without phone numbers. Again, both systems are great, but when it comes to pricing and straight up pricing, Prospect Boss is a clear winner, making this 3-0. Gosh, we have to make Mojo needs to get a point here. So Mojo needs to get a point here, in my opinion. The next thing we're going to talk about is user interface and usability. Now, in my opinion, and this is going to be very opinionated, there isn't a way to make this pure science, blows the blows. Mojo's dialer is extremely user-friendly. It's probably one of the cleanest interfaces ever, and it integrates with a lot of stuff. That being, whether you get the leads straight from them or you get them from MyPlusLeads, LandVoice, whatever. Pretty much all lead providers are going to sync into Mojo. That's a cool plus. But it also will integrate with stuff like Follow Up Boss, having a 2-way sync, which I really liked. I was able to call the people in my Follow Up Boss dialer, but I was also able to just, with a click of a button, move them to Follow Up Boss. I think it's very clean user interface. It works very well. I have no complaints about it. I'd give it a solid A. I'd say that's its strong suit, is the CRM built behind it. Whereas Prospect Boss, while it has a very clean interface and very user-friendly interface, there's no complaining. I think it's very easy for a beginner to pick up either of these dialers and use them. Its struggle kind of is that integration phase. I'd say Mojo is a little bit more polished. Makes sense. It's been around a lot longer. And while Prospect Boss does have some lead integrations with one of my favorites, and you can find the link to them in the description, MyPlusLeads. They also have leads themselves too, by the way. But you can get MyPlusLeads and have it sync directly into Prospect Boss. Now, there is talks of them integrating with stuff like Follow Up Boss, but as of right now, they do not. Right now, it's a separate thing, and it's really a simple thing to solve. Whenever I generate a lead, I just grab a pen, I write it on my yellow notepad, and then I type that in the Follow-Up Boss at the end of the day. But if integrations is important to you and all that automation stuff, Mojo's gonna kind of win out just barely here. So that makes 1 point on the board for Mojo. Let's put that at 3-1. Really, honestly, when it comes to a dialer, those are really the big things I would consider looking at. Obviously, I think Prospect Boss is a lot better than Mojo. I think Mojo's very clean. I like its interface. I don't think you're going to go wrong with Mojo as long as you're dialing. I would say if it's Mojo versus nothing and you're not going to dial at all, sure, go with Mojo. But for the price and the cost of Prospect Boss and the usability and everything, considering it's actually cheaper and it works better, I have to give, Scoreboard speaks, 3-1, and no real tiebreaker really is needed. If it was 2-2, I was going to have to do a tiebreaker, but 3-1, the scoreboard kind of speaks. I think the clear winner is Prospect Boss. I think that, it just makes sense. Like if I was going to restart, I used Mojo for a very long time. And if I was going to restart and I was going to speak to myself that was just starting in the cold calling scene, I would tell myself, get Prospect Boss right off the bat, and don't waste your time with Mojo. So I think Prospect Boss is clear winner, but that being said, it all comes down to user preference. If you're more comfortable with Mojo, just even though it's a little bit slower, a little bit more expensive, sure, go with it. They're the biggest name in the dialer for a reason. The dialer space for a reason. I'd rather you be dialing than nothing. So it all, at the end of the day, comes down to what you're most comfortable with. Again, please leave a like and subscribe if you need anything, and leave your opinions down in the comment below. I'm very curious in what you guys think about this whole thing. And as always, thank you so much for watching.